Did somebody say, we have a MLB slate tonight? Somebody cue that music. It's that time again, where full-time DFS pros give you what you need to succeed. It doesn't matter if you're shooting for a GPP takedown or trying to build your bankroll by hitting in cash. We've got you covered. No BS, just DFS. Welcome to On the RotoRadar with your host, Brittingham T and Two Minds Bluff.
Welcome to your Monday edition of On the RotoRadar, where we take you game by game through every MLB slate Monday through Friday. I'm your co-host, Two Minds Bluff.
And Britt T here with you to cover the cash game portion of today's slate. Bluff will be helping you with the GPP aspects. We've got a 7-game slate, a very interesting slate, and it's a wind day at Wrigley. However, it's a unique wind day because the wind is blowing in. Other than that, we only have one issue of weather, Philadelphia at Atlanta. There's potential maybe even postpone situations we got to monitor, and that's a game with a lot of enticing DFS plays. So with that said, let's jump right into our first game. We have the St. Louis Cardinals and Carlos Martinez at Cincinnati to take on the Reds and Asher Wojciechowski. The Cardinals are minus 120 favorites. The run total is 9. We've got a great ballpark. We've got a so-called ace, the highest priced pitcher on the slate, and Carlos Martinez. Bluff, how are you handling this game?
Yeah, Carlos Martinez isn't a pitcher I play a whole lot of, and I especially don't like to pick on the Reds at home, but there are some things to like here. He has been extremely good versus right-handers all year. He has a 30% K rate versus right-handers compared to 24% versus lefties. In this lineup, Scott Schebler hurt himself over the weekend, so he's out of the lineup. He's only going to see 3 left-hand batters in Hamilton, Votto, and Genois. And so it's a pretty good matchup. And for K's, there's a lot of great K spots here. Duvall and Suarez both strike out, and then you get the pitcher spot. And it's a pretty good spot for Carlos, but his price is up huge on DraftKings at 12.5. There is a little bit of a breeze blowing out to right. I'm not really going to have much interest in my DraftKings just because I'd rather save at pitching and pay up for hitters. But on FanDuel, he's only 10K, and so there is some interest there. I think he makes for a decent play. There's some big K upside from him here potentially if he can keep this Red lineup in check.
Let me interject here on Carmart. It's an interesting spot. I don't know what to make of this, but he is only the 4th biggest favorite of the slate, and he opened up at minus 120. That's not telling me that Vegas has a lot of confidence in this matchup against seemingly what the Cardinals offense should be able to punish Wojciechowski.
Yeah, I think that's just a lot of respect for the Reds offense, which it's due. I mean, it's a tough team to pitch against.
Well, something else interesting about Martinez is he's coming off consecutive 9 strikeout games. He's recorded a quality start in 7 straight, but his worst start of this whole season was when he faced the Reds back on April 9th in St. Louis. So he had a better ballpark. And in that game, he was tagged for 5 runs. He only struck out 3. He gave up 6 hits, and he was chased in the 5th inning. It was by far his worst outing of the whole season. I don't know how much stock you put into a matchup from over a month ago. Actually, more than that. It's almost 2 months now. But this Reds offense has seen Carmart quite a bit. As far as BVP goes, they've got a few guys that are of note. Scooter Gennett is 7 for 23. He's got a home run. Zach Cozart is 6 for 19. He's got a home run. Adam Duvall is 3 for 5. He's got a home run. But the interesting BVP here is Joey Votto is only 2 for 14, but he does have a home run against Carlos Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, C-Mart is not a guy I end up playing a whole lot. He's always been tough for me to figure out. He has that great upside when he's on, but he's kind of a two-faced pitcher where you never fully, in my opinion, know really what to expect from him. And I agree. The Reds are a tough team to pitch against. They hit him well, and just pulling up the stats from that game, he wasn't getting any. He was getting his lowest swings on the year, his lowest swinging strike rate. He wasn't getting any swings outside of the zone. So they were seeing him well, and they were making contact on his pitches. So it's a little scary, even though it's a couple months ago. Still, though, without Schebler in the lineup, I think it does upgrade it because I'd be worried about the Schebler homer versus him. And just you get 6 right-hand batters, you get a pitching spot. It's a good spot, but I have other pitchers I like more. As far as the hitting, I have a lot of interest in these Cardinal bats. You get Woj, that's what I'm going to call him, who is a fly ball pitcher in a park built for fly balls to go over the fence. This Cardinals lineup, has been pretty cold all year. I mean, Matt Carpenter is having a very disappointing year, but it's tough not to like a lot of the hitters in this lineup here. I mean, it's tough not to like Carpenter. Pham has been crushing the ball for the past 2 weeks. He's in a great spot here. Should be batting either 2 or 6, I would imagine. Even like Yadi Molina's hitting the ball well. Is Jed going to be back today?
Yeah, he's back. He was,
okay.
I believe he was back last night. He's back from paternity leave.
I couldn't remember if he was in the lineup.
Super. Yep.
Yeah, and then Piscotty, he hit a homer yesterday. Maybe he's starting to come alive, but
he's back. Well, here's the thing. One last thing about Carlos Martinez is he's going to be the most popular in cash games just because he's the only real name on this slate, and he's the most expensive, and so people are just going to flock to him. On DraftKings, that salary... Yeah, the salary at 12.5 it's a lot, but people will just plug him in cash games because hitting's not expensive today. In FanDuel, it's manageable, $10K. So while the spot isn't ideal, he's going to be the most popular in cash games. So be prepared to face Carlos Martinez if you're playing a lot of cash. Now the hitters, the Cardinals are going to be. I have them down as either the first or the second most rostered cash game players. They have a run total of 4.62. They're going into Cincy, which is a ballpark upgrade. And as you mentioned, this is a spot where Wojciechowski hasn't been good. And that's why I was curious why the line was so low on Carlos Martinez to get the win. Because guys like Matt Carpenter are going to be extremely popular in cash games. He's so cheap on DraftKings. He's only 3,700 on DK at first base.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you make of that? He's going to be...
Yeah, I gotta imagine he's gonna be a pretty popular player. It's actually kind of a weak day for first baseman too, in my opinion anyway. So I can imagine him being very, very popular.
On FanDuel, there's a couple of options where you can pay down or pay equivalent and get another player in Carpenter. But on DraftKings and cash games, just plug in Matt Carpenter. You're gonna run into him. You're gonna play him. Wojciechowski is. He's only pitched 4 innings this season in the pros as a starter. He allowed 4 runs. He struck out 3 to left-handed bats. He gave up 3 home runs. I mean, it's just a spot where people are going to lock and load Matt Carpenter, Jed Yarko, Steven Piscotty. Those guys are going to be all over the cash games. I mean, Dexter Fowler is going to be he's also too cheap on both sides, and he'll be popular, but the outfield's a lot more loaded.
Yeah, I will say I think Pham's my favorite of the Cardinals hitters.
See, I don't in cash games. Pham won't be on the roster for hardly anybody just because I think he's been moved down to that 6th spot with Piscotty back, and he's just not making any of the builds. He's not getting any of the buzz around the industry, so you won't see him in cash games. But I can see the appeal in GPP. Anything else from this game?
I think that should do it.
Up next, we have one of the weather games, the one I mentioned. Start here. The Philadelphia Phillies and Nick Pivetta going to Atlanta to take on the Braves and Bartolo Colon. The Braves and Bartolo Colon are favored -127. This is the highest run total of the day at 10. We are in SunTrust Park, which has proven to be a hitter's paradise. How are we attacking this potentially weather-issued game where we have to pay attention? It could be a delay or even a postpone.
Yeah, I know. From what I've seen, though it keeps fluctuating. I see people say, a very small chance postponement to a very, 50-50 shot of postponement. So it's definitely something we'll have to monitor as it gets closer to lock. For me, maybe a hot take, but I think Pivetta is actually a really good pitcher. So I don't have much interest in these Braves hitters outside of Adams, who's just been crushing it, and the stadium's built for him, and then Inciarte, for his steal upside and hitting the ball well. But other than that
that's the hottest take of the day, my friend. The Braves have the highest projected team total at 5.16.
Yeah, I don't get it.
In cash games, you're going to run all into Braves left and right. You're going to run into Tommy Flowers, Matt Adams, Ender Inciarte, Matt Kemp, and even some Brandon Phillips. So
Yeah,
in cash games, there's going to be lots of Braves.
I think Pavetta's actually a really good pitcher. I think there was a write-up on Fangraphs, and they called him kind of a poor man's Jose Barrios. And I think it's true. I mean, if you look, you see the home run stats this year are bad, but 4 of those homers were against the Nationals. You take the national games out, he's only given up 1 homer in 9 innings. And I think he, in the AAA, he actually only gave up, it is 3 homers in 56 innings through AAA. So I really don't think put much weight into that. And I think he's a pitcher that can get strikeouts, and he's got some nice movement on his pitches, and he can be a tough guy, especially for a team that's seen him for the first time.
Well, here's the thing. Matt Adams on FanDuel is just too cheap still. The guy has 5 home runs in like his last 24 at-bats. Like, he's just a guy that people are lock and loading in cash because he's just too cheap. He's coming in at a price point that allows you to pay up at other spots. He's still only $2,800 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he has first base and outfield eligibility, and he's only $3,700. So he's just a guy that you're going to run into. He's hitting 5th. He's got home run upside. He's got multiple home run upside. A matchup with Pivetta on paper is nothing to be scared of. He's allowing a hard hit rate of 37.5%, a fly ball rate of 37.5% to left-handed bats. To right-handed bats, excuse me. To right-handed bats, Matt Kemp is going to be very popular even after a down day yesterday because on the season, Pivetta has given up a 42% fly ball rate and a 40% hard hit rate to right-handed bats.
Yeah.
So on paper, that's why everybody's going to be flocking to these Brave hitters, and Vegas is telling us they are the highest projected team total. So your hot take is very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think Pivetta strikes Kemp out every time he faces him.
Wow, he does have high strikeouts. He's striking out 25.5% of right-handed bats, and he strikes out 20% of left-handed bats. So he is a high K guy so far in the majors. That's interesting.
As far as Philly hitters, Bartolo's been struggling. He's not showing a whole lot. You got the great hitting park at the game plays, especially for left-hand power. Bartolo's been really bad for his left-hand power. The Phillies don't have a lot of left-hand power. I mean, they have Saunders, but he actually has better power versus lefty. He's better lefty-lefty power, but still, a lot of interest in Michael Saunders, a lot of interest in Tommy Joseph. Aaron Altier, I don't know what to think about him. He's been really struggling lately. He's still hitting the ball hard, but his at-bats just, when I watch him, it's one of those guys where you look at the stats, and I don't know if I can play him right now. So I think Tommy Joseph and Michael Saunders are the guys, and then Franco, too. How about you?
You're bearing the lead here as far as cash games, and I think even GPP is concerned tonight. Have you been seeing Odubel Herrera in his most recent form? He is crushing. He's only 2.9K on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he's 2.5K. They moved him up to the 2-hole. In his last 3 games, he has 5 hits, 4 doubles, a home run, and 6 RBIs. I think Odubel has turned the corner. Whatever was ailing him from his very, very slow start that's got his price dipped way down here. A matchup with Bartolo Colon is ideal. You get this park, which is ideal. Odubel is going to be a cash game staple. He's just the numbers on Colon. He's allowed a hard hit rate of 34% and a fly ball rate of 40% while only striking out 14% of left-handed bats. So if you're not striking out Odubel, I love his opportunity here in this park. He's going to be cash game staple across the industry. So don't think you're being that cute picking him, but fading him at that price is going to be a fade at your own risk proposition today.
Yeah, and I agree too. Yeah, he was struggling mightily, just completely lost the plate, but he has been hitting his last.
They moved him up to second for whatever reason.
Yeah, he was batting leadoff in second before too, and I think he was batting leadoff one day and struck out 5 times, maybe a week or 2 ago. One thing to note about him though is in 31 at bats, he has struck out 10 times versus Colon, which scares me because Colon's one of those guys where if you can't hit him for some reason, you just can't hit him.
I looked at the BVP, and Colon has actually very good numbers against the Phillies, but I think this version of Bartolo Colon, he's cooked. He's not striking out anybody. 15 to left-handed, 13 to right-handed bats. He's given up lefties is how I always want to target him because he gives up fly balls more to lefties. Righties, it's only a 28% fly ball rate. But I could honestly, in this park against Cologne, it's the Phillies offense, so be careful. But I could see you're going to run into at least Odubel in cash games. They do have the second highest projected team total according to Vegas, so maybe it's not as sneaky of a spot as you really think, even though it's Phillies offense. They're 4.84 runs, so at least Odubel is going to be in cash games, but I could see a Tommy Joseph, even a Michael Franco, and Howie Kendrick if he's batting first or third.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. Cesar Hernandez might be popular, but I wouldn't play him in cash games because he doesn't really have the home run upside you're looking for, and Bartolo Colon doesn't allow steals. So that kind of takes away from the reason you'd want to roster Cesar Hernandez.
Yeah, Bartolo very good at holding base runners, so that takes away a lot of Caesar's upside. And yeah, I'm looking. I don't know. Bartolo's just a tough guy to even.
I think he's
tough
cooked.
to figure out how he's even. Well, I thought he was cooked 2 years ago. I thought he was cooked 2 years ago. So I guess I really can't even comment on it because I've been wrong for. He's just one of those guys too. When you roster guys versus him, and you watch those mid-80 fastballs, and it says strike swing, and you're just like, geez, come on. But yeah, it's a great spot for the Phillies bats.
Our next game, we have a San Francisco Giants and Jeff Samardzija going to Milwaukee to take on Junior Guerra. The Brewers are minus 105 favorites. The run total is only 8.5. We've got another hitter's park. We've got two pitchers that are pretty respectable. How are you attacking this one?
Yeah, I got Samardzija as by far my number one pitcher on the slate. I have his strikeout matchup about 20% higher than anyone else on the slate. There will be no Travis Shaw in the lineup today. No Ryan Braun. Obviously, he's been hurt.
Why no Travis Shaw?
He is on paternity leave or personal.
Oh, I see that. They haven't updated his status on the sites. If that's taking out a left-handed bat against Samardzija, that increases his matchup dramatically.
Yeah, I liked it even with Shaw in there because Samardzija's been way better versus lefties this year. We talked about before, his two-seamer and slider been biting in on lefties pretty well. That's really helped him, but you still obviously like righties versus more than lefties. So, and there's just so many Ks we had in this lineup that it should, the lineup should be like Keon, Thams, Hernan Perez, Aguilar, Santana, Bandy, Villar, Arcia. All these guys can strike out every time they're up. I think he's going to get 10-plus Ks today unless something goes really wrong, which we have seen in other cases versus the Brewers. DeGrom got beat up versus when we didn't expect it, so there's always a little bit to worry about. But I have Samardzija leaps and bounds above every other pitcher for me, and I have no interest in any Brewers hitters. I don't have much interest in any of the Giants hitters either. Junior does a good job at just kind of limiting damage. He's got that sinker working his last start that is just tough to roster hitters versus, in my opinion, and I just kind of want to go elsewhere. How about you?
I'm not interested in any of the bats on either side here, really, because I respect both pitchers to a degree. However, in cash games, you're going to run into Eric Dames on specifically FanDuel. He's still cheap over there. He's coming off a game where he homered off Kenta Maeda on Sunday. He's only 3,100 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it doesn't make a lot of sense to play him in cash. I don't think you'll see him as much because he's 4,700, which is just too expensive for cash games today over there. But be prepared to face Eric Dames on FanDuel because Jeff Samardzija is allowing a hard hit rate of 31% and a fly ball rate of 36%. While he is striking out a lot, if Dames makes contact, he's got a 432 WOBA and a 331 ISO against right-handed pitching. In this park, it's a home run upside spot.
Yeah, I will
he's
say
the
though.
one bat I'm worried about Samardzija.
I'd say Samardzija though. I mean, lately the soft contact has been really well. And the hard contact's been down like the last 30. So, I mean, he's looked really, really good. And I hope his start. He had bad numbers in his start with the Nationals, but the advanced stats were all just like every other start. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. And I don't know. You're not very high on Samardzija today, or?
Well, I wasn't, just because I don't like that he's pitching in Milwaukee. I don't like targeting pitchers against Milwaukee this season in Milwaukee because they are so boom or bust.
I hope
But
so.
the more I look at it, the more I talk about it and hear about it throughout the industry, some are just picking up steam, and I could see he's a value play as far as he's on DraftKings. He makes a very good value play. On FanDuel, he's 8,900, which saves you 1,100 from Carmart, and it's an interesting spot. I don't know if the run support's there for him to win the game. He's a dog on paper. And I usually don't ever want to attack pitchers that are underdogs on the road. That's just kind of a cash game mentality. It's interesting. There's one other batter I want to bring up before we move on. What do you think about Eric Sogard, who potentially could be hitting leadoff here with a platoon advantage against Samardzija? Sogard only strikes out 5% of the time. He has been just a pest. I've rostered too many pitchers against the Brewers lately, and every time Sogard gets up there, it's extended at bats, and the guy seems to never make an out.
Yeah, it will knock down the strikeout upside a little bit, going from Villar to Sogard, because I imagine that's who he'd be in the lineup for. And yeah, he is a pesky hitter. I have no interest in rostering, obviously, but
he's cheap. He's 3,100 at second base on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, he's got shortstop eligibility, and he's 3K. And he's a guy he's been getting on base. He's got a 378 batting average, 2 stolen bases, and 45 at bats. He's got 2 home runs too. He's not a guy I profile as a super power guy, but that's an interesting spot if he gets a leadoff in that park against Samardzija, and you might see him quite a popularity in cash games.
Yeah, I have no interest. I mean, I really respect that the way Samardzija's been pitching the lefties this year. I was going to take a quick look at his thing here, but we can move on to the next game, and I can circle back on this.
I'd be curious. Watch this line throughout the day, see if Vegas flips a little bit, see if the smart money starts coming down on the Giants or something. But Samardzija wasn't on my list of players in consideration when I initially ran through, just because of the underdog and road hitters park. But Travis Shaw, the lineup boosts him for me.
Yeah,
anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that, because when I first look at the slate, I just go, crap, I wish Samardzija was a lot more expensive on DraftKings, so I think everyone's going to play him. So it's good to hear that maybe
I think he'll be way under owned.
Yeah, I'll probably I think I'm running 10 lineups on DraftKings, and right now I'm going to have 100% Samardzija. I'll maybe knock it down to 8 or 9, but plan on going 10 out of 10.
Well, that's a great transition to the pitcher that is the exact price tier as Jeff Samardzija. Our next game, we have the Miami Marlins and Dan Straley at the Chicago Cubs taking on Eddie Butler. The Cubs are minus 130 favorites. That's where it opened, and this is the lowest run total of the day at 7.5. In Wrigley, I mentioned prior, this is a win game, but today it's a win that is blowing in 15 miles an hour, gusts up to 20. And Vegas is saying this is going to be a low-scoring affair. The Marlins have the lowest projected total at 3.64, and the Cubs have the second lowest at 3.85 runs. How are you approaching these two teams in this spot with the potential wind gusts blowing in?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot for Straley. Fly ball pitcher that it's going to Wrigley with the wind blowing in is a very good spot for any pitcher. The Cubs offer a decent amount of strikeouts versus right-hand bats. This lineup is less strikeout prone now that they have Zobrist and Hayward healthy. I know a couple of weeks ago when those two were out, they were seeing a lot bigger strikeout upside versus right-hand pitching. Those two do not strike out hardly at all versus right-hand pitching. But everyone else in this lineup pretty much does a lot of strikeouts. Russell, he's looking a little better at the plate too, so his strikeout numbers might come down some. But you got to have interest in Dan Straley. He's a guy that I've had a hard time figuring out, but his swinging strike rate is way up every start. That you look through his game, look through his overall numbers, that there is potential here. With that win, keeping his fly balls in the park, he could have a monster game. As far as Eddie Butler, no interest in pitching him versus this talented Marlins lineup that's really heating up, even with the wind blowing in. The Marlins are priced way up on DraftKings, which is unfortunate. They're priced up, for the stadium for what was supposed to probably be good hitting weather, you think, in June here in Wrigley. But it's going to be cold, wind blowing in. Really tough spot. They should be pretty low owned, and Butler, is very hittable, especially lefties. So I mean, I don't mind going Yelich and Bohr as really cheap GPP plays, but other than that, really no interest in the hitting on either side. How about you?
Well, I initially had interest in the Marlins because I thought this would be a good spot to attack Butler, but when the Vegas totals and the wind report came out, it kind of took me off the Marlins. But you will see D. Gordon at second base as a very popular play in cash games. He's a tier priced below Jose Altuve. He's hitting leadoff. Eddie Butler is only striking out 16% of left-handed bats. So if D. Gordon can get on base, and here's the important part, he's walking 26% of left-handed bats this season. So if D. Gordon can get on base, he's got major stolen base upside anytime he gets on, and he could easily be a guy that walks, steals second, gets a run scored, and he crushes value. And he's mid-tier priced on both sites. D. Gordon is going to be popular in cash. I had the outfielders, Christian Yelich and Giancarlo Stanton, as guys I was looking at, but with the wind and it just takes me off them. There's just no reason to force them in if Vegas is telling me they're only going to score in the middle 3 or 4 runs. So I'm not interested in there. Dan Straley is very interesting. As I mentioned, he was a guy I initially had as a target in cash games. But he's a 130 dog on the road. He's going to get the wind in his favor. He's striking out 25.7% of batters this season. He's only allowed a 252 WOBA to left-handed bats and a 312 WOBA to right-handed bats. I like the matchup for Straley on paper, but the more we talk about it, I don't know. You're selling me on Samardzija at that same price point. The one hitter that scares me for the Cubs is Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant is hitting second. Straley is he's allowing a 39% fly ball rate and a 49% fly ball rate, a 39% hard hit rate. So when people make contact off him, it's a fly ball. But if that wind's blowing in, maybe that negates Chris Bryant, and there's no hitter I'm interested in outside of him for the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth noting that Australia hasn't given up a lot of hard contact, and his advanced metrics for overall, to me, show nothing but the average Dan Australia, you think. But he does have that high swing strike number that has been consistent throughout
this year.
Yeah, it's been consistent throughout the year. I mean, his swing strike, which is kind of one of the things I look at for a K predictor to see if the strikeouts are real or not. I mean, I think on this slate he is got to be one of the top. I don't have it up in front of me, but I think he's top 3, if not not leading the slate in swing strike percent. I think Mena, he's last 30 days.
He's third on this slate.
Yeah, I got him a second, and Mena first. Last 30 days.
Junior Guerra, he's got 13.8% right now.
I got him crossed off because he just only pitched a few games. But so I mean, I don't know. Australia's a tough guy for me to figure out. I could see him getting hit really hard by this Cubs team and them not striking out as much as you think, just because the lineup is a lot less strikeout prone with Zobrist and Hayward batting 4 or 5. But I can also see him, pitching a 7-8 inning game and shutting out, getting a lot of fly balls to shallow outfield and striking out 8 to 10 batters. So I have some interest. I will pair him and Samardzija in a few of my lineups, but I'm not going to have a huge exposure to him.
Let's say I'll make it simple for you on FanDuel. You're not going to see Straley in cash games. On DraftKings, there's a high probability you'll hit Straley because he's 9.1K. He's the natural choice between him and Jeff Samardzija. You're going to have to make that decision. And I believe some will pick Straley because the perception has been the Cubs strike out a lot. And people don't want to pay all the way up for Carlos Martinez. So you will see him in cash games on DraftKings. Anything else from this game?
I think that should do it.
Up next, we have the Houston Astros and Mike Fiers going into Kansas City to take on the Royals and Ian Kennedy. The Astros are minus 118 favorites. The run total is 9. We're in Kauffman Stadium. this Houston team has just been mashing. They've won 11 games in a row. I don't see them slowing down. How are you approaching Houston at Kansas City?
Yeah, no interest in the pitching. It is a pitcher's park, in Kansas City, a tough park to hit homers out of. Ian Kennedy has always pitched better at home. I think the Astros are going to be very popular in GPPs. And, Kennedy was a guy that I've been, preaching to pick on. He has been better in his last two starts. So he's showing, some of that ability that, he flashed in 2016. So I don't have a ton of interest in these Astros. I think, they're going to be fine, but it's not the greatest spot in the world, and I think they're going to be super popular at super expensive prices. And so for the most part, I'm going to look elsewhere in GPPs. For the Royals, I always like to pick on old Michael. He gives up a lot of power. I like Jorge Bonifacio a lot. Other than that, what are you thinking?
Well, that's the thing on Mike Fiers is you want to pick people that can hit home runs against Fiers. That's usually how you target him. And for the Royals, they've only got Mike Moustakas is the only guy that really ever pops for that metric for me.
Bonifacio's got a lot of power.
Yeah, I don't even see. He's not a cash game guy though. You can't play Bonifacio. He's been hitting, I think 7th, right?
6th.
Him and Whit Merrifield are guys that if they hit higher up in the order, they make cash game consideration, but they're just you can't play them right now in cash games.
Freaking Whit! I don't even want to talk about Whit Merrifield. That's just depressing.
If he ever takes over the leadoff, if he ever takes over the leadoff spot from Alcides, he becomes in play. But hitting 6th or 7th, he's just not in play. But back to my point on Moustakas,
I still think Whit Merrifield's terrible. I'm gonna die on Whit Merrifield. He's gonna probably run off a 70-game hit streak here, and I'm just gonna shake my head every day I see him get a hit. I mean, that's into my rant. I hate Whit Merrifield. Just absolutely despise him. Him and Tim Beckham are on my crap list.
Fair enough. Back to the Royals against Fiers here. Moustakas is going to be popular because he's got that low price point on both sides. He's hitting 2nd, and he's got the platoon advantage, even though Fiers has shown to give it up more to right-handed bats. People are going to just assume plug in the platoon advantage guy. But here's a word of caution. He's only allowing a hard hit rate of 25% and a fly ball rate of 27% to left-handed bats. He's put up a 56% ground ball rate to left-handed bats. So it's not as good of a spot as it might appear to be for some on the surface with Mike Moustakas. So then you ask what other Royals are possibly in play, and it's just not a team you target in cash games. Salvador Perez may be popular at catcher.
Kane's been hitting the ball pretty hard lately. But yeah, I agree with you. Fiers, whatever you want to call him, has always been a reverse splits pitcher, been much tougher on lefties. He strikes out lefties at a higher rate. He induces more soft contact from lefties. So he's a guy that I rarely target with lefties. So I don't have much interest in Moose or Haas today. But I have some interest in Kane. He's been hitting the ball a lot better lately, hitting it harder.
He's cheap. Lorenzo Kane is. I could see him popping in some cash game builds just because his price fits. But Salvador Perez and Kane would be my targets, and I don't want to play Salvador Perez just because he hasn't been really worth his price tag. Although on DraftKings, have you seen they dropped Salvi decently?
He doesn't seem like he's trying at the plate right now. Yeah, I just don't think he doesn't seem like he cares.
It's just the Royals' offense. It's interesting. I don't know how to handle them on a day-to-day basis. This is a matchup where you'd think targeting Fiers would be good with Salvador Perez or Lorenzo Kane, but they're not making my cash game builds on DraftKings. Salvador Perez he's in there in the conversation, but it's going to be interesting. Now, the Astros bats, we got to spend a little time on the Astros bats in cash games. They're going to be super popular because they've been so consistent and just piling on the runs. Ian Kennedy is a guy who has been better in Kauffman Stadium because he is a fly ball pitcher, and a lot of those hits die off at the warning track or deep outfield and don't go over the fence. So he's been able to mitigate damage in Kauffman. But here's the bad about Kennedy. When he does get hit to right-handed bats, it's 39% hard hit. It's a 47% fly ball. Guys like Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, and George Springer are all priced to the moon. They're going to cost you a lot, but they're going to be in cash games because the builds today aren't requiring you to spend up for a Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer type pitcher. So you have funds to get at least one of these guys in your game or in your cash game build. So be prepared. Jose Altuve will be popular at second base. Carlos Correa will be really popular at shortstop, hitting cleanup. And George Springer has got that uppercut swing. He profiles very good against a home run fly ball pitcher, even in this park. If you can afford George Springer in cash games, he will be very popular.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about the Houston Mats. I really think they will be very popular. And my theory is that Ian Kennedy can limit damage in Kauffman. So I think if they're going to be super popular at super high prices, I don't mind the fade. But I will,
They're going to be very popular because the Astros name brand has really taken off, especially in cash game circles.
Yeah,
as a team that doesn't strike out, they put the ball in the play and they score runs from the one hitter to the nine.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything there. And it's worth knowing, Ian Kennedy, when I said his event metrics have looked better, he's still getting hit very, very hard. He had a 70% hard contact allowed versus Detroit in his last start and 43 versus Cleveland the start before that. But he had looked better than what he was looked completely didn't even look like he had pitched when he first came back from the DL versus the Twins. I mean, he was just throwing batting practice. So he has looked a little more confident. Still getting hit hard. The Satchel team could blow up and score 25 runs like they do all the time, but I do think they are overrated a bit and will be overowned enough for me to fade them quite a bit. Like I said, on DraftKings, I'm running 10 lineups. I'll probably keep Astros off 7 or 8 of them completely and hope this game is much lower scoring than people expect.
They're a lot harder to fit on DK, especially in cash, but be prepared to at least face one Astro in your cash games. Moving on to our next game here. This is the one I've been waiting for and the one I'm most interested to talk to you about. The Toronto Blue Jays and J.A. Happ are going into Oakland to take on the Athletics and Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea and the Athletics are minus 114 favorites. This has a run total of 8. We're in O.co, which is a pitcher's park. The Blue Jays are getting a significant downgrade. I've got a lot of interest in Sean Manaea. Tell me I'm right or wrong here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Sean Manaea is one of my favorite pitchers just in baseball. I love watching him pitch. He's been extremely elite lately, getting a lot of swings and misses, getting a lot of soft contact, just hitting every metric that you want to see out of him. As far as this matchup, it's not my favorite in the world. You have a Blue Jays team that's going to run out 9 righties. Mena has been striking out righties at a much higher clip than lefties this year, but he can control damage better when he gets some lefties in that lineup. 9 righties, just continual right hand, I think is going to wear down on him some, and the strikeout matchup for me is barely above average. A lot of these Jays don't strike out very high versus left-hand bats. I think Russell Martin, or if he's not playing their backup, both strike out basically the only high rate that I really saw. Everyone else is either average or below average strikeouts versus lefties. So I have a lot of nervous about throwing him here. And actually, when I looked, I have a lot more interest in J. Happ, who also is going to get to face a 9 right-hand, a lot more likely a 9 right-hand bats. But he is showing some reverse splits, either neutral or a little lean towards reverse splits his whole career. And he, like Mena, is striking out right-hand batters at a little bit better clip than lefties. And this A's team strikes out a ton versus left-hand bats, even when they all hit from the right side. I have this as the second highest K matchup on the slate. He comes at a slight discount on DK. I'm not really sure what to expect from ownership-wise from these two. I think they might just be kind of similar. But I have more interest in Happ. I have no interest in pretty much any of the hitters on either team, though.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way. I'm not playing any hitter in this Oakland-Toronto game. Some people might try to jam in Chris Davis facing Happ just because of platoon, and he's just a home run hitter. But it's not a good spot, and I don't think in cash games I don't think he'll be even on the radar for a majority of people. Now, I got so much interest in these pitchers that I have them very highly rated. Let's start with Shamanaya. He is the favorite, and quite frankly, he's coming off his best 2 outings of the season. Listen to this. On the road at the Yankees and at the Indians, he went 7 innings in both games. He only walked 1 person in both games. He only allowed 4 hits to the Yankees and 3 hits to the Indians, and he struck out 8 and 9 respectively. Gave up 1 run in both those games to the Indians, got the quality start and the win in both games. That is impressive beyond belief to me that he could go against those offenses and just cruise like that.
Yeah,
the Blue Jays offense, they're healthy. It's a Donaldson revenge spot, if anybody likes that narrative. But on the season, the Blue Jays have the 19th out of 30 WRC plus against left-handed pitching, and I get it. Those numbers are skewed because they didn't have a lot of their guys healthy. But if you're not going to hit Manaea, the park is a significant bump to Manaea as Toronto is coming from the Rogers Center. He's 7,700 on FanDuel, and on DraftKings, he is also very cheap at only 7,800. I just love the spot. I mean, okay, look at these offenses he's faced: Cleveland, Yankees, Boston, Seattle, and he's held his own. And the most hits he gave up was 5 to Boston.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Sean Maina fan.
He doesn't get hit.
I think Sean Maina and James Paxton are going to battle for the AL Cy Young for many, many years. They're going to be 1-2. I think they're going to overtake Sale in the next 2-3 years. They're going to be your 2 big aces in the AL as long as they stay healthy. Both of them have had plenty of injury issues. But I still just don't love this matchup. I just don't see a lot of strikeouts here.
And that's the thing I'm most interested in. Is he's not a name. He's not going to be popular in cash games. I think he'll be very popular. Really?
See, in GPPs, I think he'll be very popular. He's a guy that gets played quite a bit. Especially at his cheap price, he's a guy that gets a lot of play. A lot of people are real high on him, and you hear his name all the time. So I would assume he's going to be besides Samardzija and let's look for tournaments on DraftKings. I would think he's going to be the 3rd or 4th highest owned. I think he's going to be 20-25%.
Well, here's my thought on cash games. I don't like Carlos Martinez against Cincinnati in Cincinnati. It just doesn't feel like a safe spot to me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You come down in Samardzija in Milwaukee, it still doesn't feel like that safe of a spot to me. This guy at home, he's clicking all the metrics when I look at the matchup on paper. So I really like Sean Manaea, if you can't tell. But let's talk about the other side of it. You mentioned J.A. Happ. Happ also profiles great. He's a 114 dog, which I don't love. He's on the road, which I don't love. But he's striking out 26.4% of batters. And you're in a park that favors the pitcher. The Athletics have the 3rd lowest projected team total at 4.09 runs. Outside of Chris Davis, you're getting all their... Mark Canha and Chad Pinder are going to be popular names because they've had power against left-handed bats this year. But you're getting Jed Lowry on his bad side. You're taking out Matt Joyce because of lefty-on-lefty matchup. I like Happ's ability to get through this game relatively unscathed and as a safe play, and he's only 7,300 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's a fade because you just play Manaea, who's cheaper, but on DraftKings, he is cheap.
Yeah, but he's 500
cash game,
cheaper than
7,300. I could see him getting a 15 to 20 point DK score here, and in cash games, man.
The one concern about Happ is...
Are you worried about pitch count?
Yeah, I am. I'd like to see... I think we'll hear something about it, but I am a little concerned about that. I would think he'd be allowed to pitch, at least 90 to 100.
He went 81. He went 81 his last start coming off the DL.
I would think he's going to be around that 100 mark, if not just completely unleashed. I'm not sure how hard was their bullpen used this weekend. If they got a tired bullpen, maybe they'll give him a longer leash.
I don't think they had pretty good pitching. Had pretty good
On
pitching.
Saturday they had to use the bullpen a bit, but yeah, nothing extreme. So the bullpen's pretty rested. So yeah, I could see them yanking them after 6 innings. So that's kind of a concern.
It's the game I'm most intrigued to watch and very excited to look at. And I love Manaya at his price. He allows you to get any bat you want. And on DraftKings, you compare a Hap or Manaya with a big gun or the mid tier and also get any bat you want. It's a great spot. The run total, the park, everything's clicking on paper. So you can tell I'm excited to watch that one. Anything else from that game you want to talk about before we move on to our last game of the night?
No, I'll just say I'm a big Sean Maina fan, and I don't think the spot's great for him at all. I think he's gonna have trouble today.
I'm not afraid of the Blue Jays in this park that's not going to be conducive to the home run.
Yeah, but I mean they have enough guys that aren't really dependent on homers anymore. Like it's a different team. I mean, and they just don't strike out. That's my biggest thing. I mean, there's just no one here that there really isn't a single strikeout target on the lineup besides the catching spot.
I mean, that's a good point, and that's a strong point to make. At his price, though, he's going to be very popular on DraftKings. Moving on here, our final game of the night, we have the Washington Nationals and Gio Gonzalez going to the Los Angeles Dodgers to take on Hyun-Joo Ryu. The Dodgers are minus 125 favorites. The run total is 8. I am baffled by this Vegas line. The Nationals crush left-handed pitching, and yet they have the tied for second lowest projected team total on the whole slate at 3.85 runs. What gives?
Yeah, I don't know. That does seem a little low. Ryu has, he's been pretty decent. He's kind of showing the same.
He's not been special. He's been.
He's everything from that I see in him. He's showing a lot of the same stuff that we got in 2015 when last time he was healthy.
But he's not striking out anybody. Is my thing.
No,
if you don't strike out the Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, this team obviously has a lot of right-handed mashers, and then they have Murphy and Harper.
Speed, power, and I don't understand this 3.85 total. Ballpark, maybe?
Yeah, well, I think Ryu's good at limiting damage, and also you just got to figure he's only going to pitch 4 or 5 innings, and then they're just going to turn it over to that bullpen. Yeah, so bullpen. Yeah, so I think 4 runs is a fair projection for the Nationals.
Bryce Harper's back.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, I believe so. It should. Yeah, he has to be back today.
Yeah, he's back. He played yesterday. So Bryce Harper's back. So it's a full Nationals lineup. I mean, obviously, I don't want to target Ryu against the Nationals. What about Gio Gonzalez? Do you have any interest in him against the Dodgers? Lefties against the Dodgers has been a thing for a while now.
Yeah,
but it's Gio.
Yeah, I just can't play Gio. But it'll be interesting to see what the lineup comes out as for the Dodgers. That can kind of change some things, but
Gio's got a 12% walk rate. That's the issue.
Yeah,
he usually does a good job. He mitigates damage, but it's a spot you don't people. If you've played DFS MLB long enough, you know a Gio Gonzalez bad beat story where he either escapes the trouble or he just gets destroyed. And this is a spot where it could go either way. He's not safe for cash.
No, yeah, you can't blame cash. The one positive note about Gio is if you go to bed early, it's a West Coast game, so you won't have to sweat it. You can just wake up and see if he did well or not, because he is a tough pitcher to play and then actually watch the at-bats. Very frustrating. A lot of 0-2 counts turn into 10-pitch walks, and it's a tough one. And it really doesn't matter the lineup. I would imagine they're going to throw out their righty-heavy team that actually has a lot of guys that walk. Austin Barnes should be catching, I would assume. Did he catch yesterday? He caught yesterday, so I guess Grandal will catch. I would say Barnes, has a nice walk rate.
They DH'd one of them yesterday.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of off from Sundays. I don't pay as close attention as other days. But you see Gutierrez and Enrique Hernandez, both guys that.
Well, let's talk about Enrique Hernandez and Franklin Gutierrez. In cash games, they may be popular because they provide salary relief, and they should be hitting possibly cleanup or higher for both of them. because they liked the Dodgers are a smart team when it comes to platoons.
Yeah, and this whole I just kind of pulled. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just kind of pulled up, and this whole Dodgers lineup that you expect to be out is very disciplined in walks, has high walk rates. So it's a pretty tough spot for Gio. I mean, they should be willing to take their walks. Go ahead.
Well, and the thing about Hernandez and Gutierrez is as soon as they pull Gio, those guys are pinch hit more often than not. They're just not great cash plays because if you lose a potential fourth at bat or fifth at bat, that's devastating in cash games nowadays.
And
I don't recommend Hernandez and Gutierrez, but don't be shocked if you open up a head-to-head and you see somebody's got Franklin Gutierrez in their lineup.
Yeah, and I agree with you, especially in this spot where we expect this Dodgers lineup to be patient and run up Gio's pitch count. Probably Gio only maybe pitches 5 to 6 innings, so you're going to see that bullpen early, and they will likely, have very, very high risk of being pinch hit for once the bullpen comes in.
I do want to talk about two guys, though, that you will see a lot in cash games that are going to be popular for the Dodgers. Logan Forsythe has been hitting leadoff. He's got the platoon advantage. Gio is allowing a hard hit rate of 34% to right-hand bats, a fly ball rate of 39%. Forsythe does have power upside. He's got 345 WOBA, 164 ISO against left-hand pitching this year. He's been hurt for most of the season, but he's one of those guys where I used to target him a lot when he got the good batting spot and he's facing a lefty. And he's cheap at a position that there's very few options at third base on FanDuel, and on DraftKings, he is second base and third base eligible at only 3,500. A leadoff hitter for the Dodgers at 3,500.
Yeah.
It's an interesting play. They've got a 4.15 run total, which isn't anything that jumps off the page, but he's cheap, hitting leadoff. He will be popular.
Yeah, I like the spot for him. Sorry to interrupt again, but he's a patient guy that should can walk and also can steal. One negative on him is he just has not been hitting the ball hard since he's come back yet. So
he has been injured this year. That's the thing you got to take into account.
Yeah, he just hasn't been hitting the ball very hard at all since he came back from the latest deal.
That's a great transition to the guy I want to talk about next. Is Chris Taylor. He's outfield eligible on FanDuel and on DraftKings. He is second base eligible. This is a guy that I could not believe his ownership in cash games yesterday was he was hitting third, so he got a little bump, but people had him rostered at like 20 to 25% in cash games, and he's kind of relatively unknown, but he's got a 397 WOBA and a 226 ISO against left-hand pitching this season. He is a guy that swings for the fences. If Chris Taylor bats second or third today, he will be popular in cash games because he comes at a fair price. What do you think about Chris Taylor?
Yeah, no, I'm almost always a fan of Chris Taylor. I don't know if he really swings for the fences. He's just a very good hitter. He's another disciplined hitter that
he swings so hard when I watch him.
He does swing hard. He's still good at making contact, I guess.
Yeah.
And he continues to hit the ball very hard. I think the entire year I've never seen him below like an average exit velocity of 94 miles an hour. I don't know if I've seen any stretch of a week where he's been below that. So he's consistently been hitting the ball hard, and
he's got 7 home runs and 129 at bats, 7 home runs, 3 stolen bases. He's hitting for a 318 average. He's a good ball player that should have a good batting spot today. I have interest in Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
About? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just say I would assume they're batting him 3 again today.
It makes sense since they hit him 3 yesterday. What about these Nationals? Nationals are always a team that's super popular in cash games. They got a lefty, so you won't see Bryce Harper, you won't see Daniel Murphy in cash games. But what about Trey Turner? Jason Worth is hurt, so you won't see him. But what about Anthony Rendon is always popular when he faces a lefty? What do you got there?
I don't really have
Ryan Zimmerman, too.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in him. I just don't think it's
not even triple crown candidate Ryan Zimmerman?
No, not really. I don't like the spot that much, and it's a small slate, so I might end up with him on a lineup or two, but if it was a 15-game slate, I wouldn't play a single Nat. Ryu, he does what he does, and then they're going to get to that bullpen.
Vegas is telling us they're not a good play today, but Trey Turner at shortstop, people are going to go Correa or Trey Turner as the most popular shortstop play today. Trey Turner's been very good lately. He's got a stolen base in 4 of his last 5 games. He is facing a lefty here that's going to be harder to steal on, but Trey Turner will be popular. Ryan Zimmerman against a lefty, people always roster him because that was the thing for so long, and this season he has been a monster. He's got a 374 average, 16 home runs already, hitting cleanup behind Bryce Harper, always helps his RBI upside. And his game log, for those people that do game log chasing, his game log is super impressive. He has a hit in his last 9 games. He's got a home run in 3 of those. I could see Ryan Zimmerman piling on ownership just because people have money to spend up.
Yeah, it's definitely a spot where, if you played them, I would, I'd be like, yeah, they're fine plays. But just for me, I'm going to be under the field on them. And they're definitely not going to be someone I'm going to look to plug in. It's going to be kind of someone where if I land on a spot where it makes sense to throw together a 3 or 4 man Matt stack in the lineup, I'll probably go with that. But I won't be looking at too many one-offs. I think Ryu pitches a decent 5 innings, and that bullpen comes in and does what they do every game, and it's just a frustrating sweat and a good pitching ballpark for me.
Well, you know me, I trust Vegas more often than I probably should, and they say the Nationals are only going to score under 4 runs, so I'm on board there. That sums up our 7-game slates. Pretty interesting. Quick rundown here from the cash game perspective. Expect to run into Carlos Martinez. Jeff Samardzija is gaining steam. He could be in there. And on DraftKings, Jay Happ and Sean Manaea are going to be very, very popular as starting pitcher 2s. The offenses you want to target are the left-handed bats for the Philadelphia Phillies, the Atlanta Braves team. The St. Louis Cardinals as a team will be very popular in cash games, and I believe the Houston Astros right-hand bats, you'll see at least one Astro bat in a majority of your head-to-head contests on cash games. GPP-wise, sum it up.
Yeah, I think for me, the Shark, Jeff Samardzija, by far my favorite pitcher, and I'm talking 20, 30% higher than any other pitcher on the slate for me. Favorite stack by far is the Cardinals. They pretty much the only stack I really have interest in. Other than that, I'm just kind of going to be piecing teams together with one-offs. I'm way lower on the field on the Braves. I think Pivetta pitches not a great game by any means, and I won't say I won't roster. I might put him on a lineup or 2. There is weather concerns there, so maybe I can talk myself out of pitching him just because of the weather. But I'm not big on the Braves at all. I'll be staying away from most of those hitters, and I'm probably going to fade the Astros quite a bit. I still have some of them, but I'm going to have much less in the field. I think they'll be overplayed and overrated a bit. I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts.
Well, let's get into our hitters draft. I believe it's you got first pick today.
Yeah, I actually won one, so I'm on the board. I'm 1-3, a close victory. Had it 45-38. JD Martinez led the way for me and managed to outscore your Stanton to give me the win there. So with my first pick, I am going to go with Tommy Pham. Thomas Pham is my first pick.
Tommy Pham against Wojciechowski in Cincinnati. That's interesting. I will stick to that same game, and a guy I think I will have 100% of. I like picking guys that I for sure am going to play or at least try to get in all my matchups. I like Matt Carpenter at the first base spot in the same game against Wojciechowski in Cincinnati. I just think he's too cheap for his upside and spot today, so I like Matt Carpenter. My next pick, I want to take this guy off the board. He's my value pick of the day that I love, and I feel like I will have him across the board as Odubel Herrera against Bartolo Colon in Atlanta. Weather permitting, of course, on all these picks, but I love Odubel against Colon today.
I'm gonna go. I'll start out with my value pick guy. I think he's gonna hit at least one homer. I think he's gonna first at bat. We're gonna see a 450-foot shot. I'm taking Jorge Bonifacio with my second pick, and for my third pick, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different spot. I think here. You can see the deep thought here. I gotta make a decision. You know, I'm going to go with a guy who's been coming around, been hitting the ball well. Jorge is counting as my value pick. I'm taking Anthony Rizzo as a low-owned first baseman versus Dan Strally in a cold, wind-blowing in game in Wrigley. But I have faith. Rizzo's been hitting the ball well, been looking a lot better lately.
My final pick, I'm going back to Atlanta. I am going to pick on Pivetta here a bit. I think Matt Adams hitting fifth with the platoon advantage has just been a monster this season. I can't believe St. Louis let him go for basically nothing. I don't know what the Braves are going to do when Freddie Freeman comes back, but I'm going with Matt Adams against Pivetta in Atlanta. That wraps up our show today. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. You can always hit us up on Twitter at Kid Nodor and Brittany MT if you have any questions. Be on the lookout for a Place to Be article coming out in a couple hours. Tom's Take will also come out in a couple hours. Should be a fun slate. Appreciate you tuning in. As always, good night and good skill.
Did you like today's show? Did you find this information to be helpful? Give us a shout out on any social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Of course, don't forget to use the hashtag RotoRadarMLB in your post. Every time you use that hashtag, you'll get a ticket to our $20,000 raffle in July. You heard that right. $20,000. We appreciate every single one of you for being RotoRadar members. On the RotoRadar will be available for members only Monday to Friday for the remainder of the MLB season. As always, good night and good skill. For more information on our raffles, head over to our website, www.rotoradar.net.